Hello, World 2 kiddos. Today we are going to review we're reviewing Enlightenment philosophers, but we're going to start with the two Enlightenment philosophers who kind of get the ball rolling. Remember, we talked about the scientific revolution and Newton's importance in finding the laws of gravity and motion, and he's able to explain all this stuff. Now the philosophers come in and they say, well, with Newton we can explain the natural world. Now let's explain the philosophical world. How humans behave. Why do humans act the way they do? So the philosophers that we are going to look at, and you may want to just write these down and decide just to make sure you're aware of them, are Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, Montesquieu, Voltaire, Rousseau, and Thomas Jefferson. Yes, we're actually going to be moving to the American Revolution because, especially if we look at John Locke, he's going to influence the Declaration of Independence and Thomas Jefferson's writing, and Montesquieu is going to influence James Madison and putting together of the U.S. Constitution. So you're having these happen at the same time. So, the Enlightenment, Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes does not fit neatly into the Enlightenment category because he supports a strong government. He is absolute monarchy. So let's get back. What makes him? Well, the first thing is, one of the things you have to know with the philosophers are their books. So make sure you have Leviathan. You have that written in your notes because that's his book. That's what he is explaining his writing. Our next one is Hobbes' view of man. Hobbes has a very negative view of man. He believes man is evil. Man only cares about himself. Man doesn't really function without being controlled. Man needs to put in something to keep his bad behavior in check. So, and this is why it is this slide right here, that is so important, because this is what makes Hobbes a enlightened philosopher, because he is saying man forms government. Remember, that's very different than divine right. When we talked about divine right, we talked about that God creates government, God puts man in. Hobbes is saying it's not God, it's man. He said that what happened is there was a time before government, and what man did is they got together and man said, we'll give up some of our freedom. We'll give up our freedom. We will no longer, because we are bad. We are selfish. We can't get along. So we create a government to keep order. And that government has got to be strong. It has to go past the natural tendency of man. It has to control man. So he forms a social contract. Now, one of the things influencing Hobbes is he was on the negative side of the English Civil War. His side lost. So he lost a lot of his things. So that's another thing influencing his idea. And Hobbes is going to believe that absolute monarchy, remember we talked about that idea that the one person, the king, has all the power, nobody can say anything against him. But where he's different is man gives the king the power, not God. So what ends up happening is, as a result of Hobbes, he's going to say, because that government is created by man, once that government is created, he is not going to have a right to overthrow it, because he's putting that government in. Government is for protection, to protect the individual. Hobbes believes that you cannot overthrow that government, no matter how bad. Remember, he's strong government. The stronger the government, the better, because it's keeping man controlled. The opposite of him is John Locke, and John Locke is another English philosopher. He writes 2 treatises of civil government. John Locke was on the winning side of the um, Glorious Revolution, and he sees government as protecting the people. Well, first of all, let's go back. He believes that, unlike Hobbes, he believes man can govern himself. Man is reasonable. And he also believes that man has natural rights, which are life, liberty, and property. Now, those natural rights, you have to know them. So make sure you've highlighted them. And you might want to see if they sound familiar. Hint, hint, Declaration of Independence. Look at what Thomas Jefferson's going to write later. He believes that people are born with life, liberty, and property, and the government cannot take these away. And it's government's job to protect the natural rights, which are life, liberty, and property. So, man creates a government, and the only reason is to protect natural rights. Remember, opposite Hobbes. Hobbes says man creates government to control man, where Hobbes is saying to protect natural rights. And this is another big difference. So Locke says government's job is to protect natural rights. Hobbes says government's job is to protect order. Locke is saying if that government doesn't protect natural rights or begins to take those natural rights away, it can be overthrown. Very different idea. And it is going to be Locke and this idea that is going to influence the Enlightenment philosophers who come after him, and is going to influence especially Thomas Jefferson in the American Revolution. So, he believes in limited government. He's not going to support absolute monarchy. Remember, winning side in the Glorious Revolution. Constitutional monarch comes out of it. Hobbes supports absolute monarchy. Locke supports limited government. Think constitutional. The government can't take away our natural rights. The only job it has is to protect that right. And a big thing, if he believes that citizens have the right to overthrow government if it does not protect those natural rights. He doesn't say it's going to be easy, but he believes that that is possible.